makes me happy. Love hearing that.
Yeah.
You too?
Yes.
Really?
So much.
It makes a big difference.
It's indescribable. And so I sit here like a moron, like singing and dancing along with it. But like it literally gives me the happiest feeling. And you were just telling people that we used to listen to the song, whatever, energy of music and all that shit. So I love it.
The first like 20 episodes or so of this show, or when it was, when it was Life with the Ryans, but this podcast, we were sitting at the dining room table and we saw after the first couple that, we were used to just kind of being ourselves and just kind of, so what do you want to talk about? I don't know. What do you want to talk about? I don't know. And then it was kind of like, well, wait a second. We're talking to other people.
Oops, here we go.
And it was a whole get your game face on. What did you say? Change your state. Perfectly put. Change your state. So we would listen to Pharrell's Happy. At least like the first 8 bars.
Yeah.
Sometimes just the first 1 bar. We got it down to that before we weaned off it completely. But it was just the bum, 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 bum. And that was it.
Yeah. A reminder of emotion. Get happy.
Pretty awesome. All right, Mrs. Ryan. Hello. Good evening, everybody. Let's see. Bring it in here, Mrs. Ryan. Bring it in. Today is Thursday, September 20th, 2018. My name is Jay Ryan. This is Nicole Ryan.
Hi, guys.
We are the Ryans, and this is It's Tonight's Show.
Here we go.
Angela Croft is in the house today. Also here is, Monday's guest? Tuesday's guest, Darren Poirier. And I thought, what did you say? Like Sidney Poitier, but without the T? It's just like that guy yesterday.
Yeah.
It's almost more confusing to me. Why not like Perrier? No, I mean Perrier, right? I mean, maybe they don't have that fizzy water up there. I don't know.
Have it.
That's French, isn't it? Seems like they would.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to tell you this, Darren, ahead of time because I figured that you'd whack out about it. But can you come back over here and have a seat real quick? Because I've got a couple things. Yeah, real serious. I just have a couple things. These are some leftover follow-ups from yesterday. These are actually from V-Dubber for Life. This is an audible. We've never done this before. We've also never had. We've done this whole thing.
Hey,
we talked all about your music,
yes,
and how you're one of my favorite people, and why you're such a good person, and your appreciation for life, etc., etc.
Yeah.
What we didn't talk about, or what we didn't get into enough for our Porsche files, was your art. How did your art get chosen to be displayed at Deus, which is how we met you in the first place last year? Let's start with that real quick.
Right. Okay. So quickly, if you go back to my episode the other day, I showed you where I was from and stuff, and mentioned that it's a world famous motorcycle destination.
Yes.
Right? So I, as a kid during tourist season, I lived directly across the street from one of the last restaurants before you go on that road.
Okay.
And so there was a steady stream of motorcycles, and they would typically stop there, right across the street from where I lived. So I was just mesmerized by the machines and what motorcycles represent, that sense of freedom.
Especially where you grew up.
There was such a mystique to the people showing up with their full face helmets and stuff, and so I've always loved motorcycles. And so when we came back from the tour, I had some free time. I got the bug to start doing artwork again. The first thing I started illustrating was motorcycles, just as a way to connect with my passion. I had mini bikes growing up and stuff like that.
And we've obviously seen where your work has gotten, because we showed some of it the other day, and I've seen others as well. And some of it's actually in here on our set of the car stuff.
Exactly, yeah. So without rambling on, I just did a Google search to see what was out there.
Okay.
Right? And I found this guy, John Christensen, who's the curator of the Oil and Ink Expo.
Which is what you were a part of.
Exactly.
Okay.
John is a professional photographer. I think he lived in New York for a number of years. His work is beautiful. Oil and Ink Expo, John Christensen Photography on Instagram or something like that. He had a similar experience. He's a rider, full on motorcyclist.
Sure.
And a few years ago wanted to, I think the story, I hope, John, this is accurate. He wanted to buy motorcycle artwork for himself. Went online, couldn't find anything that he liked. So he figured, I'm going to open up a contest, like worldwide, to try to get some artwork and just go across the country and show it and sell it.
So you reached out to the right guy who was doing the right thing, and then he chose your work.
Exactly.
Wow.
And
that must have
really
felt
neat.
spectacular.
Oh my God! Well,
Considering
especially
you're relatively new at this at the time.
exactly. Yeah, she had. It was again with Angela's sort of gentle
The muse over there.
coaxing. Yeah, absolutely.
Every
I didn't want
time
to do
we
it at
both-
first.
yes,
I didn't. It was like, no, it's not good enough. It's not. She's like, why don't you just submit it and see what happens? And I got
Then you know.
chosen. And so
And that's how we all met. So that's what got you here last year,
Yes.
and that's the pictures of the show. We just didn't have time
No,
when we were
there
on
was-
your episode the
yeah,
other day.
yeah.
But that's what actually got you here, and that answers my own question for
Okay.
how you actually, because it didn't make sense to me. I couldn't figure out how you, a Canadian guy, got your art in this thing. 'Cause
I
you,
didn't get it.
You
Yeah.
had said it was relatively new. You hadn't
Yeah.
been doing this very long.
No.
Anyway, okay. That covers that. Awesome. Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Car
Yeah.
stuff, really quick.
Car stuff really quick.
Well, first of all, you saw John Benton the other day.
Yeah,
That worked out
man,
well
what an
after,
awesome guy.
after the taping.
Thank you, John. Yeah, for taking.
He's a
time
big
to, yeah. He's just
Friend of ours, but also of the shows. We're
oh
big
my God.
fans.
And he was prepping on this 356 blue 356 for Rennsport, which I think is one of the most beautiful vehicles I've ever seen in my life. Oh my God.
Isn't that the
Awesome.
greatest?
Oh, wow.
All right, you've driven a handful of Porsches. Now, you don't currently own a Porsche. It's still
No,
on the
it's-
bucket list.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you've driven a handful now.
I have, yeah.
What have you driven?
Just 3.
Yeah, but
so
what are
I
they?
have a friend's first generation Boxster S,
Mhm.
the same 997 as you guys,
Okay.
and now your friend Bob's from Breakfast Club,
KTM.
71 911T.
Yep, pastel blue.
Yeah.
So you've
What a
had a
thrill.
little bit of I wouldn't say a taste of everything, but you've
Yeah.
had certainly the modern and the
Yeah.
old vintage.
Yeah.
If you were to get one right now, you had the money and it was all set
Yes.
aside and that wasn't a thing, what would you get?
Good
I
question.
think I'd get a Cayman. Yeah. Because out of those
Fine
three, my friend's Boxster S was my favorite.
Wow, and then you get the enclosed.
Yeah, but I'm not, in Canada, I'm not so much about the convertible thing. So,
Oh, good for you.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're very excited for
Good
you. I
choice.
hope that this trip was good. The other
Oh
reason we're
my
doing this
God.
today is that you have been here for 3 weeks. Is that right for you
No,
guys?
2.5.
2.5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're actually finally just about to depart after the weekend, right?
Yeah. It's like magic happens every time we come here.
Ugh, I can't wait.
We've been here enough times that it's somewhat familiar, but there's a part of LA and SoCal that's still dreamy and surreal at the same time.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Even after 20 years, I agree with
I
that.
was going to say still after however many.
Yeah.
So.
All right, you're amazing.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thank
You can
you.
still stay put because we will just play this clip over. Mrs. Ryan, I have something you don't even know about yet because it was delivered. I got a text and then we had to wait for it. It was delivered moments before we went on the air.
Oh,
we have
wow.
a new feed. A new
What?
feed.
Another one?
Someone else. A new feed.
That's exciting.
This is a group of folks that I have been helping behind the scenes. You know them. You know who they are. Everybody knows who they are. But I've been helping them behind the scenes with what you're about to see.
Okay.
And this is sort of the introduction as I know it. I believe this is everyone's introduction. I think this is an exclusive. I'm sure it'll live on this site that you'll see in a second. But allow me to introduce you all to Der Pizza Nation.
Oh,
Roll it,
my.
Hal.
Hey, porschelife 111, it's JP from Der Fascination. We're giving you a Vegas feed from our Der Studio in the Arts District of Las Vegas. We thought we'd show you around our new studio a little bit. Right now it doesn't really look like a studio, it's more of a big old mess. So I'm going to try to walk around here and not trip on things. I don't even know what the heck I'm showing you here, but anyways, we're walking around. You might notice in our studio we got Mikey back there, producer Mikey. He's getting some work done, trying to make all these gizmos work. And Ryan, we really do appreciate all the advice you gave us on which gear to get and what works and what doesn't. We're going to find out soon if you were right. So anyways, you might also notice in our studio that there's nothing stolen from any other studio. So and we know that the Ryans are going to be coming to our studio to be on one of our first Der Fascination podcasts. So we'll make sure we lock everything down. All kidding aside, love you guys. This has been JP from Der Studio in the Vegas feed. We'll see you in Rennsport.
Yep.
Wow.
There you go.
That's so
Producer John, that's
Awesome.
pretty rad.
So this we have nothing actually to do with this. It's not like a franchise or anything, but these guys saw what we were doing. They were like, we're going to do something like that. It'll be their own thing. Obviously, it won't be anything like this, but they're going to do a podcast as well. And we're helping them set up the studio and get things going over there. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun because to me, this is like, oh, we've got a sister show that we can like play with.
That's what it feels like.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that is so cool. This is the old days when, you go on their show, they go on your show, and like, whatever. It becomes a thing. It feels very organic
how podcasts are. And like, that's so neat that we have that group already to jump into. That's so
I
cool.
love all their videos, by the way.
Isn't that fun? There's a good group of guys and girls. That's awesome, Mrs. Ryan. I'm so glad that you enjoyed that as well. I would like to ask you a question that I know Darren has been wanting to know.
What?
What's going on?
Well, speaking of bucket lists, one of Will Smith's is to be a stand-up comedian, and he took the jump in the other day.
Yeah, at a private Chappelle show.
Yeah, Chappelle did like a private LA thing where it was the big standouts of the night were Will Smith and John Mayer.
Yeah, there was a bunch. There was a bunch of people involved in that. That sounded like a really cool thing.
It sounded like a really neat show, and it's definitely...
No cell phones. It was one of those, the cell phones were confiscated kind of thing.
And
Pretty
it seemed
awesome.
like just down home, like everyone amongst their friends being like, this is what we talk about.
To me, it seemed like, and this is where I think comedy is going to have to go, and sadly, this is like the whole Lenny Bruce thing way back in the day. Comedy's going to have to go underground because you can't say anything anymore.
Yeah.
So this is like... I don't know if it's even the beginning, but it's the first one people are hearing about it. You know what I mean? Because we know of tons of these private comedy shows all the time, everywhere. It's just like those the VIP for the foodies. You know what I mean? Like all those little private dinner parties and everything. Yeah, they have these private comedy shows all the time. This one just sounds like it's maybe a little more mainstream, or at least because maybe it was all those people involved.
I think it's because the Emmys were just now, so people were in town, and there was a lot of people involved in the show. And Chappelle says he's doing something. You go.
Plus, Will Smith is pretty awesome and amazing. I was one of those people. I was always kind of a fan ancillarily. I never really cared one way or the other. I liked his movies, Independence Day and stuff. Mm-hmm. I liked The Fresh Prince. I liked all the stuff. I liked Jazzy Jeff. I liked him when he was a musician. But these days, I think he's a pretty spectacular human being. Mm-hmm. And I'm really, really impressed with the motivations and how he's out there doing everything he's telling everybody else to do. So how can you be like, well, I can't do it?
That's how I felt reading this story.
He's out there doing it.
He's like, he is famous. He is that guy that everyone wants to be around.
He's a YouTube star now. He's doing YouTube videos. Which, if you don't know this, please check him out on YouTube. He's spectacular.
He taped this stand-up thing for that bucket list, YouTube, whatever. Show, and so that's what I watched yesterday a little bit, and I don't like promoting anything.
Stuff.
Yes,
very cool.
And that's exactly what it feels like. So I credit anyone. I give kudos to that because it's hard as shit to do stand-up.
Awesome.
And to know you're funny. So good job.
Yeah, and that was the other part. I heard he did quite well. I heard he was very funny, and they said some of his material, and I thought the material was good.
It just takes mad balls to think you're funny near Dave Chappelle.
Yeah,
he did a piece about his son being the something about it. His son was laying down a new track for his new album or something, and he was kind of offended that Will was kind of offended that he did get asked to. He's like, they're treating me like I'm the second best rapper in the house. To me, that's funny because we all remember when.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember when somebody said once after a couple of his movies, it was a kid, and this was 10 years ago here in LA, here in Toluca Lake, as a matter of fact. It was right around the corner. That's so funny. I'll tell you whose house. You know who was there? It was the Fonz. Crazy. Anyway, but somebody was like, "Oh, what? Will Smith wants to be a rapper now?" When he was doing the stuff, the music to his own movies.
Hilarious.
All right, Mrs. Ryan, next one.
Okay, otters, which are those otters, right? That's a Canadian thing. Yeah, they're so cute. Well, they're on
their backs and they break. Yeah.
They're known to be super sweet and whatever and nice and docile and whatever.
I'm sensing rabid otters.
No, they're not rabid. I loved the story because it showed that they really do protect their own. They all, a group of them went after a crocodile that was nearby because they were like, no, you're not eating us. We're good. The otters took down this crocodile, which I thought was super
Is there a video of it?
No, I didn't watch it. It was in Singapore. Maybe.
Well, that's all the answers,
Maybe.
isn't it?
That's all of them. There might be one. It was in Singapore. I didn't watch it. I just read the story. I'm sure there's a video.
Well, I mean, this is... I don't want to get political. I was watching Michael Moore lately, though. He's been on a lot of stuff because his movie's about to come out.
Yeah.
Which one's that?
Fahrenheit
11/9, which is the day that Trump was elected. president in this country. Not this country.
No. No.
That country. Pardon me. Anyway, he was saying something similar about the small numbers rising up, and that was the only way to be. The one person, one vote thing is the only thing that's still. It doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't want to regurgitate what he said, especially because that's not what we're doing.
Okay. Well.
Sorry about that, Mrs. Ryan.
Moving on.
Hope it didn't throw you off in any way.
No, look at me. I'm all together. I mean, am I ever? There were new observations seen in the wild of wildlife. Normally, I'm like all about studies, but like some dude was out in the wild watching this nonsense, and he saw that praying mantises can hunt fish.
Oh, sure.
I didn't know that.
Oh, they're multi-talented. Is that the last one? You put it down. I thought I'm not trying to.
No, not. It's not the last one. I saw the last one I will leave on is I saw an article about Chevy Chase wanting to work again. And
did you read it?
Yes, I did. Did you read that one?
I did.
What do you think about it?
Well, why don't you tell us what it said? You said I saw an article. I wanted to make sure you read it before we talked. I
read the article. It was very in depth. It was an interview with him, but also talked about
Chevy Chase would like to be working, but no one will work with him. Was the whatever the blurb there? It bums me out. I used to like Chevy Chase a lot, even when he was apparently a drinking asshole to everybody else. I've told the story on the podcast here. I used to have my Late Show jacket that David Letterman gave me because I stole his microphone and returned mine.
Is that Exhibit A, by the way?
No.
That's a reproduction.
Replica, yeah.
Okay.
But it's exactly, yeah. I would love to put the real one on the desk, but until we know that Letterman doesn't give a shit and doesn't want it back and all that stuff, it doesn't belong here. It's stolen property. You know what I mean? All of this other stuff was acquired very, very legally, very, very legitimately.
It's all legit, yeah.
So yeah, until that ever, but it makes sense to put them back together because that was the mic from the it doesn't.
Sorry.
Anyway, sorry, Mrs. Ryan. Now I'm all flustered. Darren.
Chevy Chase, the article.
Yeah.
Yes.
He used to shoot pool at a place where I used to go to in Connecticut called Boston Billiards. It's no longer there. And he saw my Late Show jacket once and invited me and a couple of the people that we were with to come into the private room. It sounds awful. I mean, there was a window. It's not like a private room, but it was nice. It was very nice and very, very generous. And I told him I had interned at SNL and all that stuff. And, he started that show. Yeah. So we had some stuff to say. He was very, very nice. And I'd seen him again a couple times at Saturday Night Live. People don't realize that. He was at Saturday Night Live a lot in the backstage. Yeah. Dan Aykroyd, too, all the time. Is always behind the stage, behind the scenes at Saturday Night Live. Anyway, it was just, he was always nice. So, and I never worked with the man, though. I was just a guy who he didn't know.
I did. He was in Hot Tub Time Machine. So, I spent a good amount of time with him promoting that movie.
How was it?
He kept to himself. So, I didn't have good or bad interactions with him. I heard kind of like when that John guy SNL was like, is Mick Jagger nice? People always asked him and he's like, no. But he's got millions of dollars and he hires someone literally to be like, I want a Diet Coke here. So it's you have different barometers of what things mean. To me, it's an age
thing. I think there's an age thing that people weren't factoring in. Hot Tub Time Machine is a bunch of 30 and 40-year-old guys, and then here's a 70-something-year-old guy. I might be exaggerating, but
he's 74 now, so he was in his late 60s. Yeah. But my best moment with him was actually on a plane to promote the movie with his wife Jane or whatever her name is, because she clearly, it's kind of like you keep mentioning and referencing, and you've said too, the duality of
he's not here right now.
Sorry. The duality of having a partner.
Sorry, Darren.
That's good.
That you can play off of, that gets you, that knows that is your grounding force.
Yes.
She definitely is that for him. So I do feel like when he's around other people, he might not be the best to work with, but he just keeps to himself. I like him. I think he's super rad. And
that was a long time ago. We don't know what he's like today, is my point.
You're right. Except Dan Aykroyd said in the article that Chevy's one of the sweetest, largest, hardest, most magnanimous people I know.
Wow.
So that to me speaks louder than just about anything else, because Dan Aykroyd is
credible source.
So
and right up the street. We should try to get him here.
Yeah, I would really.
Not for the show of it all, but to just talk about the occult and to have just a conversation. I don't know if he would do that.
We'll see.
He's an incredibly interesting fellow.
Yeah, no, I would love to talk to him and Chevy too. I feel like they're both in that camp of things are weird. Like, just embrace it and be awesome. They're awesome. So
yeah. All right.
I'd like to do that.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
And that's been What's Going On. Good job, Mrs. Ryan. All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, our guest, Angela Croft, will be here. I cannot wait to talk to you. I've been excited about this all week. I'm not being facetious. All right, cool. All right, we'll be right back. More after this.
Don't go waiting for the moon. It'll only make you blue. And one day it will be yours. A little time is all it costs. And I'll be there if you get lost. Don't worry, it's a good life, baby. Time's on your side. Tomorrow you're gonna feel alright. So kick back, enjoy the ride. And when the sea is calm and you got the whole world in your palm, when you have everything you'll ever need, I just hope that you remember me. Don't worry, it's a good life, baby. Don't rush, the time's on your side. Tomorrow you're gonna feel alright. So kick back, enjoy the ride. Oh yeah, kick back, enjoy the ride. And if you don't want me here, I guess I have to walk away. And then another 1,000 years, we might meet again someday, with different faces, different names, but I love you just the same. Good life, baby. Don't rush, the time's on your side. You're closer than you realize. Kick back, enjoy the ride. Don't worry, it's a good life, baby. Don't rush, the time's on your side. Tomorrow you're gonna feel alright. Kick back, enjoy the ride. Be right there, I'll be right there by your side, yeah. So kick back, enjoy the ride. Kick back, enjoy the ride. Oh yeah, kick back, enjoy the ride. It's a good life, baby. Kick back, enjoy the ride. You better let it slide now. Kick back, enjoy the ride. Don't worry about tomorrow. Kick back, enjoy the ride. Don't you worry, don't you worry. Oh yeah.
Hello.
Kick on back.
There we go.
Don't you
Very-
worry.
There we go. That was a very long break for a lot of reasons.
Remove the cup OT.
Anywhere but that.
So tell me, am I all
There we
all
go. Something
correct?
like that should be good.
Now,
Beautiful.
you're
There you go. Hi, Angela Croft.
Hello, Jay and Nicole. It's so
Hi.
great to be sitting here and not just on my couch in Canada.
So we should say you guys, you and Darren, have been with us since the very, very beginning, since we were talking about doing this, let alone when we actually started it. And you were every day sending it, you did great. I liked how you did this. I would do this instead.
Great support.
Huge, huge support. So thank you. Obviously, we thank Darren, but thank you so much because it
Thank
means the
you.
world.
Oh, well, you know, I was loving it and receiving it and just being transformed by it in different ways as well. So
that's cool.
That would be a good segue, actually, because I brought a little something to kick things off.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Cards Against Humanity. Here we go. Line them up.
Now, I know you were probably not totally serious last time, but you kind of threw down the gauntlet, Jay, when you said, you know, see what Angela brings next time. And it just gave me the spark after we gave you guys the T-shirts.
I was joking.
I know you're totally joking, but
I smell gift cards. Just kidding.
But
just kidding. I wish we had a camera on Darren.
Were you the kid who was always going like this with your Christmas present?
No, we never had gifts.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Oh
No,
my
just kidding.
God.
That's a whole other episode, Jay. We need to talk.
Just kidding. No, I had a
You know
wonderful.
she's gonna jump on that
Christmas
right.
gifts.
I have to be careful with you.
Jeez.
I forgot.
Very respectful of boundaries. But it did spark something for me. It sparked this inspiration to bring something for you each. Because a big part of my work when I'm working with clients is to really focus in on their strengths, their gifts, their light, that inner light that we all have that can get smushed down and buried, especially when we're dealing with difficult stuff. And so I love to bring that forward for people because it's strengthening for the individual and empowering. But then when we consciously kind of engage with those strengths, they ripple out into the world, right? And they are of service to the world. And that's something that I think you guys do so beautifully. And I just really wanted to honor and acknowledge each of you in your own ways. So what I'd like to do is give you each your card. And what I would suggest is opening them and then showing just the cover for the viewers at home. And then if you like, what I thought is I could read them to you to be a witness to each of your strengths. And I don't put you on the spot to read them. And then we can dive in and kind of play from there.
Do you want to sit here? We can do that. I love
Do you like
this.
to be in the hot seat?
I love it. No, I love it. So, all right,
So
we'll just turn the
we'll
table.
do
So
that.
we're on this
And
side over here.
This is partly building on the theme as well that kind of came out in your conversation with Darren of like passion, purpose, turning adversity into advantage and manifestation, right? Which are just so potent topics that I love. I've been so dying to jam on with you guys.
Awesome.
And I have questions for each of you too. So I just think we have a nice little sandbox to play in. And this is
Just so you know,
me
I don't
putting
have
my
any questions
toys.
for you. I have a bunch of words for topics, and you have no issues conversing. So
that's kind of what I did for myself too, like popcorn. Like I'm just so excited to chat with you guys. So, okay.
First of all, is this what you expected? Because you have watched this from the beginning.
Yes.
Everyone usually thought, oh, it's much smaller than I thought, and blah, blah, blah.
Well, I think because you were so great at describing the space and then the different sort of panos you've done with Meow Meow and this and that, I kind of had a little bit of an idea.
Okay.
And I think partly because we've chosen to live in a smaller space as well. Like that sort of fits my mental framework. So everything is unique when you experience it the first time, right? So of course there are elements that I'm like, it was just kind of surreal when we were here the other day because again, we've been experiencing this from our couch in Canada. And and then it was surreal, like I'm here. How did I get here for real, right?
It is weird.
So it felt kind of like one of those quantum manifesting moments, but just really connected to the heart too. That's the thing that just shrinks time and space, right? Is that connection of the heart. So it's good to be here. And
all right, so
this party started.
So Nicole first, then, or
why don't you each open at the
All
same
right.
time, and then we'll show. You can show what's on the cover of each card, and then I'll read.
Okay.
And then you guys can decide who
I
you
don't
want to go
think
first.
she was getting food. I think she was making these beautiful cards, putting stickers on. Mine has a comet on the back or a shooting
The
star.
shooting star.
Yeah,
You
I
guys
have
are
that. I have
stars.
one too. It's super cool.
Aww.
You're the best.
I'm going to reference Darren's sister, Marlene, again. She's awesome at sending cards, and she always puts lovely little stickers on them. So I'm taking a page from you, Marlene. It's always such a nice touch.
There you go.
Okay. So the front,
Yes.
you have the best laugh in the history of best laughs.
Wow.
Such a
Amen,
good compliment. Such a good compliment.
And what was so funny is as I was starting to get these prepared last night, Darren was messaging with a good friend of his, a dear friend of ours in Shetty Camp, Nova Scotia, where he's from. And she was watching the podcast. She was like, I'm loving it. And she's like, I love Nicole's laugh. And we're like, get out. We're just writing about that.
That's awesome.
And that is lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt.
So which of you wants to go first? Spin
She
the
does.
Wheel of Fortune.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
What do you care?
No.
Ladies first is what my mind went
Okay.
to.
Okay, so get to put on my fancy glasses. There you go. Okay, so Nicole.
If this doesn't say everything about our relationship.
That's so much like Darren and I too. We have these cupboards in our closets that are open, and his is all completely Virgo neat and tidy, and mine just looks like a hurricane hit it, but I know where everything is. Anyway. Okay, Nicole, as the card says, you have the best laugh and smile ever. It's the best because it emanates the deep sense of joy, delight, and humor that lives within you. And I would also add compassion. Yeah, that humor comes from that place. It's healing and a blessing to hear and witness because your ability to laugh at the whole spectrum of life, from the innately joyful to the absurd and downright nutty and painful aspects of human experience, is an incredible gift and a reminder to not take take things so seriously and to enjoy and delight in the moment. This, my friend, is deep wisdom, and I thank you for it. It's healing, grounding, uplifting, and sanity-provoking. Love and blessings, Angela.
Oh, it was so sweet.
I would hug you, so I think we mic up. Yes.
Well, I'll hug you later.
Yes.
I'll just think about it until then.
Yeah. Thank you for your joy. It's really infectious.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Darren.
Zip up over here in the meantime.
You guys are adorable.
I know.
You're welling up a little bit. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes.
You guys are incredible.
What is it? Mike Myers, I'm verklempt and Mike is sigmazoid.
I love Mike Myers. You guys are incredible. What's mine say? Just kidding.
And go. And scene.
Oh, married life. Where's those envelopes?
Okay, so I will reach over. And so the lightning.
Oh, I'm
bolt.
sorry. Should I have handed? That's what I should have done. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
Rude.
No, it's okay.
I'm too nervous, I guess. That was very, very nice.
And taking a
I don't
deep
receive praise well in case this is praise.
breath. Oh, good. So we have material to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we could talk about that, sure. I can just tell you why if you want to know.
Well, if we have time, we could even do a little exercise that I could teach you. That might be kind of fun too.
Sure.
We'll see what wants
I
to
wanted
happen.
to say, so you're a therapist.
Yes.
What kind of therapist are you?
I am a social worker, clinical social worker by training, but I refer to myself more as like a holistic social worker because I very much incorporate body, mind, spirit. Social work by nature is very much inclined to be systems oriented and thinking big picture, but it doesn't include things like the spirit and the body and nutrition and those kinds of things and the shamanic work.
Arguably far
that
bigger
I do.
picture.
Yeah. But it was a good starting point. So I practice in that domain, and I meet people at the juncture of transitions and trauma. And so I have sort of 3 different branches of my work. Work for an incredible organization called the Social Work Consulting Group, which has now become a part of another amazing organization called Functionability, which serves people with rehabilitation services post motor vehicle accident.
Wow.
And I have the great privilege and honor of going into people's homes and working with them in that context, which is lovely because it levels the playing field, right? It's not like someone coming into your office and there's a desk and a power differential.
This is both.
Yeah.
You're in our home with a desk and a power differential.
Yeah. But yeah, right? And it's wonderful work and it's challenging work. And it's given me a lot of scope because I operate as an independent consultant. So I really get to practice in the way that I feel is right for people.
This is so important because then you're not pushing someone else's agenda.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is so important for the work that you do.
Yeah. 100%.
Wow. All right. Well, now that I feel that we've explained your credibility, I'd love to hear mine. No, I'm just kidding.
And we'll come back to that. I do life coaching as well and some shamanic practitioner works. But
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm fascinated with what you do.
We'll come back around to that.
All right. I was just making a joke.
We turn it back to you because we're doing the
Here we go.
ping pong.
Ready.
Okay. So Jay, before I went on the quest for your card, I knew I wanted to find a lightning bolt, and Shazam, there it was on the shelf. Coincidence? I think not. The lightning bolt expresses the incisiveness of your mind, the clarity of your spirit, and the direct piercing, in a good way, quality of your communication and curiosity. Lightning can often be startling, but it also clears the air and is a sign in some traditional cultures that healing has occurred. Your vision, voice, and way of being in the world has this quality, and a deep bow to you, my friend, for wielding this energy in service to love, healing, and growth. Love and blessings.
Nailed it.
Might get framed and put somewhere.
Nailed
nice.
All
Yeah.
that says to me is that whatever I am going for is landing at least with somebody, and that means
100%.
the world to me, because that's all that I'm in this for, is to push positive. We had a little conversation during the break, and you go through different things, and that's all we are both living for.
Yeah. Well, and it comes across. I mean, I've been the recipient of that in different ways, and we can dive into that later if it comes up. But it just, there's a way, I think, when you embody something, that creates like a direct transmission, right? Like you feel it, you don't just think it. And so
I wonder if that's the
what
tether we were talking about during the break too. I was telling Darren during the break, I said, people who are making very nice, like you just did about the show, I don't feel that most of that's about me. I feel like I'm an idiot who has a really good tether, who's being channeled this information
Yes.
to blah blah blah, and it's my job to try to not fuck it up with the human that I am.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Well, it's what I do in my own work too, is to try and be as clear a channel for kind of what wants to happen for the person who's in front of me holding space, right? And
This is perfect. This is exactly what I don't know how to vocalize or
Yeah.
verbalize.
But you did, right? Sort of being that tether.
I like yours better.
But I think,
But because this is something, this is something we all deal with, but this is something you're working on right now too, with finding the flow. We're trying to, kind of
Clearing
call
my
it.
channel.
Yeah.
Clearing the channel.
A lot of us unbeknownst to ourselves, create a tremendous amount of static that all of a sudden we can't pick up on those signals for whatever we're supposed to do.
Yes.
I sound like such a fucking, you know what I'm saying though?
No, I'm completely woo-woo. Like I own the woo times 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's been a journey too, because I've, come up in very traditional
I was going to ask you, did you
systems.
always? Because you're not in the field where that's like accepted and celebrated.
You guys keep talking. I'm going to make
Absolutely.
a couple camera tweaks. I love this conversation.
Yes. Yeah, that has been a journey. I mean, it's always been a part of me that I've had to kind of learn to articulate for myself.
Okay.
And so it's really like, I feel like on that path of purpose and passion, it's when you listen to those little whispers that tell you go here, go there, that starts to unfold. So it's been a journey to kind of stand in that a little bit more. And I think it's always timing too, right? Like I think we're in a time right now where it's imperative that I'm seeing more and more people in different professions and speak about this opening, this sort of opening that's happening, I think, on the planet right now. There's a doctor, Lisa Rankin, who took a journey herself to step. You're familiar with her?
Yeah, I know her.
Right? Where you step away from the traditional and the ways that it's been informative, but also binding. She did something totally different, but then felt the call back into it. So it's almost like you're on a covert operation to come back into something that's traditional and established and sort of start to bring some of that change from within. So
Yeah.
I've had my own phases of stepping away from it and stepping back into it and learning new things and bringing it back in. And so it's been a journey to become sort of operating in this integrated way. But it's also been married with my own journey, as I've done for myself. Then I bring it out in my work with my clients. And so it's a beautiful dance. One of my mentors actually talks about this circle of light. And I think that's what you guys are doing here, where you're putting it out, but then my clients are gifting me all the time with their presence and their insights. And so it's this beautiful kind of giving and
That's often how we
receiving.
feel when guests are here. I
Yeah.
mean, is that kind of what you mean? With us? I mean, we feel gifted
I would
by their
imagine.
energies oftentimes, not always. There's a dud here and there. But for the most part, and I feel energized by that often more than, I don't know, depleted.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean by the gifts that we get from other people when they...
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that when
What do
you're
you-
in that space of open-hearted sharing and curiosity, I think it is a gift, and it just, it invites
Being in that
opening.
environment is nice, to be in a nurturing environment.
Absolutely. And that's what you guys create. You really create a space of holding and sharing and non-judgment and curiosity and playfulness, like all of those qualities that I think really invite us to be ourselves, like that little kid, that inner light that, gets a little, squished in here and trampled in there as we grow up and we become socialized or have those wounds or dings or traumas, either little T traumas or big T traumas. And the light just kind of goes, ooh, this is not safe at all. Like, I think I'll just tuck that away for a little while. Won't be myself because clearly that's not accepted. So to create spaces where it's just let your self be your wild self, right, is just such a gift to the world. Nice to see that's what you guys are doing. So I can only imagine that you would get, energy back from that because you're just standing in your truth and offering up that option to other people.
I think that's, again, very well put. Offering up that option to other people. That's all it is. Anybody can do whatever the heck they want. Anyone can be, if you think that you want to be like us, if that's your thing, you could do it. I mean, if you want to be happy, if you want to be whatever, carefree. Nobody's carefree. But you know what I mean? If you want to try to keep that at bay, I don't know, it's all up here. You can do anything you want.
Yeah.
You just have to decide how you want to be. That's the hardest part, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that, so they don't know that it's a choice. They think that, that whatever they are, however they feel, is decided by their environment and their stimuli and everything else, but it's not their fault. Everybody's doing that wrong. You can do anything you want once you realize that you are the only one who can do anything. Change it, keep it the same, jump out of your box.
Yeah. It all lives within. And I've heard you reference that a lot of your own. And this is where I have some curiosity for you guys too, talking about meditation practice and going within to find that. Because I think, yes, you can do anything you want. And even more so when it's aligned with the essence and truth of who you are. Because I think we all came here with something to do and to offer, right? And it's almost like we come in with these constraints, whether it's whatever you believe. I kind of believe we choose our family and those constraints.
Yeah, I've heard that whole thing. I believe in a bit of that.
A little bit of that?
Well, I believe it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know for sure, right? But it sort of feels like that's the game. And then you got to Houdini yourself out of that stuff to find your way back to that unconditional love, that space of joy and freedom and connection.
Yeah.
Right? Where, anyway.
That's what I found, for sure.
Yeah. So I kind of went on a circle there.
No, it's okay though. But just right where you were there for a second, I equate it often to a video game. Which video game do you want to play? And then you put it on your Xbox or whatever the heck you have, and then you go play it. Okay, well, zoom out before you were born. Hypothetically, you're some light or some energy or some whatever the heck, space junk someplace, and you're like, hey, I want to play the human game down on Earth. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to do? You
want
to be the teacher? Do you want to be the race car driver? Do you want to be the crane operator? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, whatever the heck.
Yeah.
And then, you want to be David Letterman. Okay, great. You want to be David Letterman. Well, maybe you need to have a fucked up childhood because so did he. Maybe you need to have, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know how all that stuff works. But if you zoom out far enough, you could absolutely connect dots and make it work and be like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. Zoom out. My advice is always zoom out because
zoom out, yeah.
No matter what you are looking at, it will look different. It doesn't matter what you're looking at. It will look different. You will have a different perspective.
And I think what you're kind of touching on there a little bit too, like it's zoom in and then zoom out, like to engage.
In my opinion, you're already too zoomed in. If you can't figure out your problem, you're too zoomed in on it. That's my general consensus. Blah, 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 this, blah, blah, and you're in a bad mood and you're overwhelmed and whatever. Great. You're too zoomed in. Go take a walk.
Perspective.
Zoom out.
I think some people don't know what that means. And I think that's getting harder to understand the more you're like, but I need to check Facebook and I need to check my email and I need to check my text and I've got notifications and I've got all this shit. It gets confusing to navigate through all that to be like, no, I need to fucking lay down. I just need to lay down silently. Like timeout's got a bad rap when I was a kid.
Right.
But
that's my favorite thing, being in trouble and being sent to your room. I bet you too, creative.
I was taught how to do it wrong. I always get timeouts with my brother. So it was always like, talk to your brother and get into an argument here. And so like it all
perpetuate
goes away.
The problem.
Totally. So when I say people don't know what it means, like I was given timeouts. So to me, timeouts is argue with someone to get to the bottom of whatever got you to timeout, not shut up and go to your room and be quiet. So I've had to readdress all that stuff. So when people zoom out and zoom in are really good they're really good words. They're really good directives. But like, what does that mean? Quiet your mind from all the notification shit that you have and your whatever you have in your life sometimes is what zoom out means to me.
And it's interesting, the use of words. That when I was thinking zoom in, I was thinking about engaging the inner witness, like the inner work. But I see what you mean. You can get too micro on things, right? And just really
do you want to really
analyze.
I mean, I can go.
Because that's what I'm curious about. You've each referenced meditation practice, and especially for the neuro stuff. I'm fascinated. I work with people with brain injury, and you talk about it's all within, right?
For me, we have to go to a different conversation, which becomes, what do you actually believe? Do you believe that your brain is your brain, or do you believe that your gut is your brain, and et cetera, et cetera? Because I do not personally believe that this was ever designed to think. I believe that this was designed to retain information. This is a hard drive. It was designed to calculate complicated problems. It was the first computer, right? The brain versus when we were jellyfish and all just blobs. I'm going crazy here, but that's what I believe. And then all of a sudden it becomes, well, this isn't really meant to think. So it's not great at it.
No.
And it's not good at solving these problems. This is connected to something else where you just know there's an intuition involved. It's the sixth sense, fifth sense, whatever. I don't know how that works. But if you believe in that stuff, then all of the shit you're talking about goes away, and it's no longer a problem for me in my life because this isn't doing the thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so the zooming in and the
yeah.
zooming out part almost is, I just know that, oh, blah, 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 it's not working. I need to remove myself from it and zoom out. And when I come back, I'll be able to figure it out. Even if it's 2 seconds later, I just need to do a whip pan, not look at it for a second and come back and be like, okay, it's possible I just cracked this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so just by zooming out, you check into the place of knowing as opposed to the thinking, analyzing, and what you were saying there too.
I mean it literally. Do you remember? You know the Eameses, as in the furniture. They did a movie, I'm guessing in the 60s, called The Powers of 10, where it's a guy on a suntanning or whatever, and it zooms all the way out through the universe and 10 times out. Oh, 10 times out, 10 times out, 10 times out. Each time it's a completely different everything. So like, oh, we live in this, for the sake of a lens or a macro, call it, 1-to-1. We live in 1-to-1 over here, but then you zoom out, 1 to 10 and then 1 to 100 and then 1 to 1,000, on and on and on. That's what I mean by zoom out. None of those problems in 1 mean anything to 10, and none of the 10 problems mean anything to 100, and none of the 100 problems mean anything to 1,000, et cetera, et cetera. It's all scalable. So it's like, if you literally go, this is not a problem if I think about everything around it, and then you know everything around it, so you can just fix it. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think in that context, I think of the mind similar to you as a receptor, a transceiver, and can be really great at figuring some things out as long as you're keeping that open lens.
Yep.
Right, and you are sort of engaging the witness.
Let it be the calculator, but not the thinker.
But not the thing. Use it as a tool, and not, in mindfulness practice, which I've done some training, is really just watch the train go by without getting on the train, right? So you can be curious about like, oh, isn't that interesting that I am totally spinning out about this thing, this person, whatever.
Do you play any musical instruments?
I don't currently, but I grew up, my parents were great at fostering a love of the arts, going to the symphony. So I sstarted with piano early on, and dance. We talked about that earlier. So music, the embodied music through dance. And then
that's kind of what I'm getting at. So you've
cello.
got that in you as well. And art, anything with art ever? There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just...
My art would be more writing, poetry.
That's
and I
still
love
art to me.
doodling. I was a doodle maniac, and so it's like spirals and...
We had another conversation during the break when it comes to that tether and everything, and the art and the creativity that flows through artists. Darren and I are both of the opinion that we don't come up with that stuff, as in Darren and Jay don't come up with that stuff. It's channeled from someplace else.
The ether.
Yeah. Okay, well, where's that? Because there's stuff there, and it comes to us. So all of a sudden, everybody, that's what I believe. I'm not saying this is fact. This is just what crazy old Jay believes.
Your radar to pick up on, and that can be other people's thoughts, other people's projections, the energy of a place.
It can be absolutely what someone doesn't even know that they're thinking, but they absolutely are. And if you call them on it, you are right.
Yeah, the unconscious stuff. Like you get, and as I've matured and lived longer and longer, you almost get those feeling flavors. Like, oh, I'm around somebody who's feeling depressed, or I'm around somebody who's like really judgmental. mental, because I get a little feeling state. And as a younger person who is very intuitive and very empathic, that can be confusing, right? Because you're like, is this me or not me? So when I, in my early mid 20s, I did training as a shiatsu therapist.
Ooh.
And it was hardcore. It was called Zen Shiatsu. And this guy was sort of like, drunken wooly master. He wasn't drunken, but he was like out there and some people would say like inappropriate in some ways, but he pushed everybody's buttons, and you had to sit and meditate at the beginning of class. And he taught us to feel the energy, get out of here, get in here, and get in your heart. And they found like there's neurological cells in your heart and in your gut. So it's all connected. So when you're in that loop, then you're really accessing your own inner wisdom, right? And that's what he was trying to get us to do. So I'm so thankful I had that training before becoming a therapist, because literally, I remember when I was doing this training, or shortly after, I was doing some counseling, and somebody walked in the room, and all of a sudden, it was sort of an open drop-in peer counseling thing. Someone walked in the room, and my throat closed up. Oh, that's weird.
I've had that happen.
And she sat down next to me and talked to me for an hour about how she had trouble expressing herself. Right. So you can kind of feel into what's me, not me. Or I could feel when I was doing family therapy, the mom, you could tell who had the initiative to come in, and I could really feel if the dad was sitting there thinking like, oh, this is BS. Like, I don't know why I'm here or whatever. And it would give me that signal to kind of reach out to him in a different way. And then this teacher of Zen Shiatsu taught us how to clear our energy at the end of the day.
Really?
Which was really helpful, because you can come home feeling like you're covered in sticky notes of other people's
Can you
stuff.
tell us what that consists of? Was it a technique?
It was, largely based in, I think it would have been like a Qigong, kind of like moving the energy. So you use your breathing, you're kind of grounding into the ground and pulling the energy up, and then
from the earth,
energy down. So in Eastern philosophy, Chinese medicine, there's always this tension and creative dynamic between heaven and earth, above and below, the directions, the elements, right? It's very nature connected, and we exist within those dynamics and
Are we talking about biocentrism? Is that right?
I don't know if
biocentricity.
That's it.
I don't know if I've heard of that.
Oh.
So, but
I believe in it, but I'm not
that.
versed enough to say that. But it's what you're talking about. It's all the same. One
energies,
all around.
Like working with the energies and bringing in sort of connecting yourself to the earth and connecting yourself to the energy of heaven, however you want to frame that. To clear your energy, so you now connect with, okay, what's essentially me, and what is the other stuff that I can just let go of. And some people in traditional cultures use smoke and incense or sage, the understanding that there are energies, and we don't have to look at them, and sort of some of them can be kind of nasty, but they're mostly just.
But yours more about visualization of clearing your energy out versus sage and incense and all that stuff.
I use a little bit of everything, because my office is where I do my administrative work is home based, and I do some of my coaching calls there, and then I'm out in the community. So having work from home, as you guys know, can get kind of strange, like because I am a work person, which is a certain energy, and then I am, a spouse and a partner, which is a different kind of energy. And when your office is like 10 feet away from your kitchen table, it's, a little weird. And I also like to change state when I come home, where it's like I want to leave that. So I'll use some incense. I'll do some clearing.
Change your state again.
And
it's really good.
Leave it. And that way I'm also kind of keeping in right relationship with my clients too, because it doesn't serve them if I'm carrying that stuff around, right? So
do you have any tricks for that? Because we ended up we cut our place in half. Luckily, there's one bedroom on each side, basically, is how our layout is. And we turned the master into our production office. It's, all the cards are on the wall and the work table's in there and all that stuff. There's still a bed in there. But so this whole half is studio and office. And then there's living space, bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, all the other stuff on the other side. I make it sound huge. You know what I'm saying? You can see it yourself. But it changed our thinking about it much, much better, so that we go to work. And we come, even though it's here, it's like a cartoon. Your side, my side, when you put the tape down.
But mentally drawing those lines is so important. So having a physical reminder of this is different, because I do a lot of my PT, for lack of a better word, but the neuro training of and I was just telling Darren when you were gone, part of what happened was, just so everyone knows, my right foot is smaller than my left foot these days, because I've been from atrophy. it does happen in women when they get pregnant. So like I know, thankfully, logically that shit happens, so I'm not freaking out about it. But it does cause, like, I knocked over a camera while you were gone because my body doesn't always know the balance of the different feet.
The feet.
So it's like,
if she's not thinking about it,
yeah,
it's not there. She has to consciously know that this foot is going to support me. This foot is going to support me, and then it does. But if she's like, hey,
if I'm
Darren,
thinking
whatever,
about,
down.
See you later. And that's where like multitasking is like, people think of multitasking as like, I can do this while I watch whatever and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, I need to focus on walking. And if you talk to me, I may or may not be able to answer you. Like, it's just so simple, the lack of multitasking. I went on a rant.
No, it's great. I'm glad that people get to hear
yeah,
this. And she wasn't here for this, so she didn't get to see any of that.
And it just causes it kerfluffles everything, because it's not even, I think it was about energy, but it's like my energy gets knocked down when that happens, and that permeates the space. So it's like I want to be able to clear it faster, and that's where I struggle. And it sounds like you know at least what I'm talking about. Whether you can like magically make things disappear, I don't know.
Change the state and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying about something can happen, and it shifts the energy, and when that energy is happening in your home, right? It's another consideration. And I really appreciate what you're saying too about having. I can only imagine how much this sort of inspires in you that practice of mindfulness, like that it's forcing you. I am just focusing on putting my next step. Like that's powerful and difficult all at the same time.
It's Thank you. It is. And it's one of those dumb things that like we all grow up learning to make second nature. Like no one, rarely do people think about like walking, like how you walk. So
yeah, once you learn it, you've learned it.
You've learned it.
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
So it's harder for me when I have to explain it to people because it's so rudimentary. It's so basic. And it's stuff that we don't even remember because we did when we were so young. But
it's part of our life, so we don't talk about it on a regular basis. And someone will be like, "Hey, what's up? You can't walk?" And I'm like, "No,
today's
actually,
better than
I
yesterday."
Can't walk.
Like,
are you happy? Like, is your little joke better now?
Well, I think there's something really important and powerful too about naming things that can tend to be invisible, right? Because you project such a great energy, it could be easy for people to forget, kind of what you're dealing with. And that's,
do you know
that's
what MS
challenge.
is known as?
What is it known
The
as?
invisible disease.
The invisible disease.
Yep.
And I work in the realm of brain injury where it's the same thing. People can like look
course.
once they recover from their orthopedic injuries.
You're
people
fixed.
Like,
you're fine.
Well, how come you
Get
aren't
back to work.
at work?
Yeah.
Right. And it's.
I have conversations with people that have literally known me forever, and I can see where they don't understand, and it is so jarring for people when people don't understand.
I can't imagine what that feels like for you.
It's unnerving because it must be like what artists feel like, and when you're like, and your intuitiveness about your job. Like I say to people a lot, like my old job, it's not what it looks like now. It was different. It was about the internal shit of like relationships and understanding people and what they're going to like and what they're not going to like, which sounds a lot like
before it was all
practice.
in a phone and everything, right? You had to keep all that stuff alive.
You had to mentally,
and in your brain.
Yeah, and so and really what it means is like, I'm definitely off topic, so someone bring me back. But like,
this is great. I'm glad
I feel
you're
like
talking.
it's right on target, personally.
I feel like she needs to talk.
I love this. I'm digging it.
Well, I wondered today, like what you find with therapy, because you're also a therapist in Canada, and it's different with socialized medicine and shit up there. It's so you might, I imagine, encounter different kinds of people, versus here it's like an active, like you have to have insurance, you have to have blah blah blah. Some people think, and then like you get directed into a stream versus you get everyone. You're in a different kind of medicine. Like I imagine your spectrum is wider.
It may be the realm I'm operating in. I'm funded by motor vehicle insurance, typically, and once people's claims settle, then they choose to either continue privately or not. But I think there are fundamental differences in that, a lot of my clients have family physicians they've worked with for a while, and they got to choose them. It wasn't part of an HMO.
Did you say motor vehicle insurance?
Yeah.
Somehow mental health is covered under motor vehicle insurance in Canada?
In this sector where we're working exclusively, and there are other domains in my practice, I do life coaching and other stuff, but in this specific domain, people, if you have, and I believe it's the same here, if you're in a car accident and you sustain a brain injury or orthopedic injuries at a certain level, and there's ways of evaluating this.
Oh, I see. Because
then you're eligible.
Of course, that makes sense.
And
yes.
so my services and most of my clients are seeing physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech language.
You're part of a team.
Physiatry, part of a team,
Right,
which is
okay.
awesome because it really does take a team and a village to address like all of these systems.
Yeah.
So I've been really intrigued about your meditation practice because on a very like micro dot level of relatability, as we were talking about before we started the show, I was born with club feet, had multiple surgeries
You would never know.
in order to be able to walk, and one leg was worse than the other, and so I've had to, through the gift of different teachers along the way. Joe Dispenza is a great teacher in sort of that mind body of how you can visualize activating those circuits. So in combination with, and this is just in my adult life, I've worked with physiotherapists and osteopaths who are sort of this mindset. I didn't do physio growing up, I did dance. And so now, like, I've developed capacity in part of my leg I didn't have before. But there are times, like, when it's icy in Canada, I have to hold Darren's hand because it doesn't track. I don't feel it on the ground in the same way. And I have to consciously put my mind into my foot so that I don't go sailing and give myself a brain injury in the process, right?
Can you tell us a little bit about that practice? I've experimented with this a little bit myself to very, very beneficial results and immediate results. Are you visualizing flow? Are you visualizing the flow, like the energy flow? Are you visualizing blood flow? What exactly are you talking about that you think might be able to benefit her? Because I think that this could benefit her in the same way that it does you.
My instinct is to learn about what you're doing and then add to that, because I've heard you talk about meditation and meditating on sort of in that realm, I think, if I'm not mistaken, but anyway, whatever you want to say about your practice, and then we'll jam on that and I'll add to it.
My practice is pretty when I need it versus like every day I do this at whatever. So it sounds a little more free flowing than it is. It basically is, I meditate whenever I need to. And sometimes that is 17 times a day. Like I don't judge myself for it anymore. I don't sleep very well, all that stuff. So it's like, what do you do when you have insomnia and it's literally 2 a.m? Like, and I say goodnight to you at like 8 o'clock sometimes. And it's not because I'm in bed. It's like I do a lot of work at night. So, but like there are times that my brain literally, like I see myself listening to the same audio piece. It's like reading the same page, but it's an audiobook and podcast and shit. And I'm like, I got to stop. But to that, I guess, in a long roundabout way, a big part of my process is meditating on what's not working, because there's a reason it's not working. And I can't, and I struggled very much at first with like the ease of people being like, oh yeah, just meditate, just be quiet. And it's like one of the things with mindfulness that they teach you, at least a lot of the work I'm reading and all that stuff, and from my knowledge of the brain and how it works and how it's set up and how it develops from schooling and stuff, and I imagine you know way more than me, but in my experience of meditation, I had to stop meditating because I was getting caught up in the negativity too often. And I had to really, because at first when you mindfully meditate, you're looking at accepting all the things about you. But my mind was going to, I write, and my job was to create scenarios for things that were hopefully best case. But so my brain wires towards future thinking, and sometimes that's what could go wrong. So I have to unwind and go, that's actually not yours. It's actually in the future. It's anxiety over shit you don't even know is going to happen. And then it flips over and it gets really sad into depression shit that like, but you did this, so this will happen. So it's really about mental health and addressing those really honestly versus calming your mind down. It's looking what's in there after you calm it down and then letting it work again. So to me, that's my meditation. And then I had to let my body get worse because I had to let a lot of that stuff fall down in the meditation work of like, calm your stuff down and let it rewire naturally. So this is my natural. This is my bottom line of like, shit is not wired right. And so I don't walk right, and my scoliosis acts up and it mangles all my insides. So my meditation work now, which is different than it used to be, but where it is now is visualizing things running and being set up correctly. It's no longer the going through whatever the thoughts are and like letting them fly by. It's like actively being like, and then you do this, and then you do this, so that I can rewire my brain to have a few automatic things like walking. Because the thinking part is not in your brain. It's connecting all of that. All of it. And in astrology, it's represented by Mercury, which is as above, so below. And it's like an ant farm, basically. It's like the runner ants of like whatever. So wherever that lives in your chart is where your thoughts and feelings and whatever all get aggregate by these ants, right? So I had to go, okay, wipe out the ant farm. Stop what you think you need to do and let everyone just mellow out. I don't know if that's meditation. Sorry, that was a really long answer. But
It was honest. That was the answer. I think it was great.
And there's similar parallels in my own experience of having started with mindfulness and just the practice of observing, being the witness, like just that concept of, oh, I'm not my thoughts. Great. Because some of them aren't too fantastic. And that's a train I don't want to get on. And sometimes you do, right? So that ability to catch yourself and come back, respond rather than react, right? That's an empowerment. That's a freedom to say, okay, maybe I've already taken the train 5 stops down. It's like when you get on the subway and you wake up drooling and you realize you've gone the wrong way. And you're like, oh, I'm at Danforth. I'm supposed to be at Ossington. Great. Okay. That happens all the time, right? And so it's
Queens,
great.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's great for that. And then I found like, okay, well, I could sit here and do this till the end of time and it would be helpful, but there's more. Right.
Yeah.
And the visualization piece, or like getting myself into a certain state, like connecting with spirit, I will use meditation for as well. But I love what you're saying though about, it sounds like you were on this journey of observing and then allowing what is like, oh, wow, there's a whole bunch of garbage in there and that's just circulating pretty powerfully. And then letting that come out, almost like a wound cleaning itself, where it's like, oh, look at that nasty stuff coming out.
Yeah.
And but then
That's
there's
the way I
fresh
look at it
skin
also.
underneath. Right?
I think I think a lot of this wiring stuff is. I'm going to go really old school just for visualization purposes. It's an old telephone, switchboard, right?
Yes.
And before you rewire it all, you gotta.
Yep. Pull it all out. Unhook from the matrix.
And your body and everything else, everything that you think did something, it did. But your new way isn't going to be that way anymore. So things aren't doing that. You're in that awkward puberty phase when fucking everything fell over for no reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up about it and focus on the rewiring part and the rebuilding part and all that stuff. And I feel like, I don't know, I'm very oversimplifying all of this process. This is how you fix MS. Not saying that, but maybe this is how you get through the day.
Well, I was influenced by Joe Dispenza, and he was in that movie Darren referenced What the Bleep, and you guys were in communication. And he was a chiropractor by training and was doing, I think it was triathlon, some sort of sporting event, and was on his bike, got hit by a car, had a terrible spinal injury. So obviously he knew a lot about spines as a chiropractor, and all of the top medical people were saying, you need to have this kind of surgery. It involves some sort of putting a rod in there. And he thought, my chances of really coming out of this and having a great life are pretty slim. I'm dodging that bullet. I'm taking those chances, no surgery. And everybody told him he was crazy and that he wouldn't make it. And he he found a friend's place.
They told him he would sever his own spinal cord, right? That was the idea of it. Wasn't that the gist of it? Or something like that? Like he was going to do damage he was going to ruin himself by not getting the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he lay, for hours a day on one of those flat boards and spent hours reprogramming and telling his brain, I need you to hook up here and hook up here. I mean, I think I was listening to him recently. He's got a new book out. I wish I could remember the name. It may come to me, that I've ordered, haven't read yet. But
so do you believe this is a story? Or do you believe this is all possible?
I believe both because I've, experienced some interesting things myself. Is that you mean a made up story?
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't believe it.
I believe it's possible. Also, I totally believe it's real.
I don't have any reason to believe it's a made up story. It didn't occur to me that it was.
Well, there's a lot of. I don't know how to say this. Maybe traditional thinking would say that that's not possible.
Exactly. And that's well said.
Western medicine would say that's not possible.
It's not possible. And I've heard, you know, on a similar trajectory and a fascinating story, I think his name is Dr. Bredesen, and he's done research around diet, nutrition, and Alzheimer's. And he's actually written a book, I think it's called Reversing or Ending Alzheimer's, and the role of nutrition. And he's worked with patients who were in traditional medicine tracks and, you know, having their brain scans done and looking at the plaque building up and so on. And he had a patient who had reversed I don't know how early onset it was, but, you know, symptoms of Alzheimer's, and was in the clear, went for their brain scan with their traditional doctor, and the traditional doctor couldn't believe it. So he actually told her that she still had stuff going on because he had no way of explaining it. So he felt, well, I can't, you know.
This falls into what we were also talking about during the break.
Which makes me mental. Like, I've been in situations
we're
sitting
led
around
to believe
a table.
that medicine is black and white, where the truth is it's the furthest thing from it, and it's the opposite.
It's a paradigm, right? And it's like, it has to be like this. It's very 3D. It's very Newtonian physics. Like, hello, we live in a quantum world, but like a lot of people haven't caught up yet, right? And so I think everything changes. Possible.
So I think anyone that like feels weird, like, because I know we spent collectively at the doctor like 3 years. Like, let's just say like there was a good 3 at least. So it's like I can see the trajectory of the scans I took versus what they were telling me, and it's like it doesn't match. It doesn't add up. So I think that when people do scans, it's like something hurts, so they look for it. All this is fair. So they're like, oh, my belly hurts. So they'll look at the belly and they'll take a scan and they'll see what's there. And it's like, you didn't see yesterday and you're not going to see tomorrow because you're not doing these scans, and you really don't know what's around it that you're not seeing. So what are you looking at? Is there something there, or something like triggering something that you can't see that is there that's the pain? I think you have to look at everything differently.
Absolutely. And I think there's something too about this term like radical acceptance, because the story, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Byron Katie. She has this amazing body of work called The Work, where, and I won't go into her story. It's a fascinating story. It's
a girl's name who's Byron Katie?
Byron Katie.
Okay.
Yeah. She's, I would guess now, probably in her 60s or 70s. She's been teaching this for a while, but she had her rock bottom moment, and, you know, cockroach crawled over her toe, and all of a sudden she realized, I'm not my thoughts. And it seems like one of these people, like an Eckhart Tolle, where they really had like a spontaneous enlightenment kind of experience. Like, she lives in a different dimension than
So what was the gist of it? What happened for her? She was sitting there.
Well, one of the outcomes was she just lives in the state of radical acceptance, where it's just sort of like we tell ourselves stories about what is happening, right? And just, I will come back to that as a sidebar. She went to the doctor one day, and the doctor was like, "Oh, you have a certain kind of cancer," and she's just so like, well, I could make a story about that, like, oh, it's terrible, whatever. She's like, all right, so I guess I got cancer.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, like, she went back next time. Oh, you don't have cancer.
Yeah.
Right.
I love this. I'm the same way.
Right.
Yeah. I think Bill Murray's got it right. I think he's the muse that we should all be following. He's the same thing. Just present and just get through the moment. I love all this.
Yeah.
I want to know what happened with the cockroach. How did that make her realize?
Oh, I don't know.
How did that make you realize, oh, I'm not part of my own thoughts and all that?
It's hard to tell someone else's story, but as she tells it, she was like clinically depressed, locked herself in the room most of the time. Her kids were scared of her, angry, you know, not at all a happy camper. And she was at last ditch row and thought, the only thing her insurance would cover was like some kind of halfway house for eating disorders. So she said she had such a degree of self-loathing that she only let herself sleep on the floor. She wouldn't even sleep on the bed. And then she's like in her head and like, oh, I'm stuck, I'm terrible, blah. And this, whatever was the moment, a cockroach crawled across her toe, got her attention, and all of a sudden she was like, wait
so it was a rock bottomy type of moment too.
Totally.
Interesting.
And then she apparently was never the same afterwards, and almost had to be re-educated by her children because she was just in this totally different realm of perception.
Yeah,
that's how I feel for sure most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I just was jarred out of like nothing I knew was what it was. Everything was upside down, and not upside down in a relatable, like, just flip how you think. Like, I thought at first, like, oh, just think the opposite. Nope. It's not the same. So I have to re-educate myself constantly of like, what's normal. And it only is exacerbated by my physicality of like, that's not how it was yesterday. Be open-minded. because who knows what it'll be tomorrow. And so all that does is make me think up here, which is what you were, to me, spoke to me about the paradigm stuff.
And that's a shitty thing to future cast. Unless you are sugarcoating it and redirecting your future. If you're just thinking about the way that the medicine tells you this disease goes, you don't want to live. I mean, just kill yourself now. You know what I mean? Like, it's awful. So you got to fight it.
Yeah.
I mean, in shamanic traditions too, there's this idea of that the future, like time is very fluid and not linear, right? And you can...
Not even real.
You can, what's that?
It's not even real.
It's not even real,
in my
right?
opinion. Yeah.
And you can actually sort of dialogue with your future
It's
self.
all happening at once. You said it before, quantum universe.
Quantum universe, many different possible futures, and there are different ways to tap into those and align yourself with that, right? And it does, similar to Byron Katie's work or other people's work, it's like just drop the story, right? Like whose story is it and who's telling it?
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, that's certainly something in the work with my clients or in my own head. It's like, whose story is it and who's telling it? It's very empowering to how do you author your own story?
Let's put this up here. Let's see. Get that going right there.
Nice.
For more info, Angela at angelacroft.com.
Oh.
That's right.
Lovely.
This was requested. And then also, whoop.
A.G. Croft.
There you go.
Like Tomb Raider.
Did you even know we had those?
No, I did not. That's fantastic.
Well, she made a request. I had to learn how to do it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I had limited access to send you anything. The computer at the hotel kept crapping on me and wouldn't let me do things. So
good. Get out of your computer.
Get out of your yes, that's been very therapeutic to be away from my computer.
Good.
And it's been an awesome last name to have actually when I was been working with kids where they'd be like, oh my God, like Tomb
Laura
Raider.
Croft.
And I was like, yeah, just at night though. Don't tell your parents. This is just daytime.
We should think about wrapping it up, but I don't want to leave you unfulfilled. And I said, I had, on here was therapy, positivity, astrology, self-help. You know what I mean? Like, these are all things that we always talk about when we're together. Do you have any unrealized goals?
In my life?
Yeah. Do you have anything that you have always wanted to accomplish that haven't? And I'm asking that because I ask this of people sometimes in the hopes that maybe we can help someone eventually make their dream come true. Or at least help, be another stepping stone.
Unrealized goals, aspirations. Okay.
Yeah, any of those things.
And there are a bazillion because I'm like a rabid learner. Like I'm always into something new and learning something new. So those, I guess it's kind of a goal. But what comes to mind actually, and is part of our other connection, is I would love to learn how to drive on the track in a Porsche.
Ooh.
Like to get race driving somewhat credentialed. I have no idea what that involves. I know there's is it Mosport, Darren? Canadian Tire.
Have you ever done the go-karting? Have we started with the go-karting? Because that's a great place to start. And it's not jokey. It's fun. It's
so
just
fun.
like
Have
racing.
you done that?
Well, no, but I have a nephew who is like completely into cars, so that would be a good starting point to
Go-karting
go
at
with
one
him.
of those professional places, like we go to K1 or there's a handful of them.
Someone mentioned that.
Those ones are really cool because they're electric and they're indoor and whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the closest thing you're going to get to real racing, and I'm not being facetious. It's the closest thing to Formula One.
It lets you feel the motion and the physics of it.
Which
absolutely,
I love.
the physics of it and the physicality of it. It's not easy.
We're so sore the next day. It's like, and I drive those ones. Like it's a workout, so it trains
Core.
you.
I would say start with that.
It's
because
more arms,
shoulders too.
It's this part versus like the core is important to keep you able to see, but it's more like steering. Like when the faster you can go, it's more like the weight of steering and like using your body to steer.
For the investment, which is whatever the money it is to go do it at the place, I would highly recommend it. And then if you like that,
do that.
Because I can see already next year you guys are, I mean, if this doesn't happen before then, you're going to be at the Porsche Experience Center next year.
Yeah.
Yes, as we were this year, and I took the...
did you do it?
There is crazy LA magic, and that would be another goal. Is we want to be here way more often. I want to work with people, have clients here, which I have one now, and sort of be more connected to this place because it's a second home to us. This place and Darren's hometown, and then Toronto's our hub and our sort of our center. So that's definitely a goal as well. But when we were here, and part of the magic is one of our friends from Toronto was magically here at the same time, and he introduced us to one of his friends who has a Porsche, and we're chatting. And he's like, "Oh, you're gonna like the car." My friend shows up in today, and we're like, "I bet." And we're talking to. This is a shout out for Ahmet if he's watching ever. He happened to mention because we knew that you could go in like for an hour and a half. You get to drive a Porsche, and that was sort of something we weren't quite ready to do. And but he said, well, you can get someone to, it's like, you know, you do a lap around the track and you have a pro driver drive you. I'm like, that sounds awesome. So signed up for that, and it was exhilarating. I'm like, I want to do this every day, right? And he's like, and it was so funny because like there are some, I think, amusement park rides I can't get on because I don't meet the height requirement. So
you are the first guest whose feet didn't touch
swinging
the
my feet.
the ground in the chairs.
I am just 5 feet, perhaps a hair under. So they're rigging me up in the car, right? And they're sliding the seat all the way forward. And they're like, make sure you can touch the front and hold the side door because you're going to be rocking and rolling in here. And I'm like, I got it. I'm good. Like
Which car were you in?
It was a GT3
Oh my goodness.
red.
But a GT3 at the Experience Center is a ride.
It's a rocket.
It's like the fastest thing you could be in, I feel like.
It's faster.
Agreed, but the ride you get out of it's the GT3 all day long at that track.
Pulling G's and the launch control. Like Darren had told me about this feature, the launch control. I'm like, that just sounds gnarly in a good way. And so he's like,
I
are you
don't
ready?
like any of that shit, but I love going someplace and experiencing it like an amusement park like that, you know?
And it was like, you know what? I'm a Star Trek fan and Star Wars geek too. But you know when they go into warp drive and all the stars go like, he hit launch control and I was like, Armin, you're killing me. This is awesome. I felt like, am I out of body? Like, what's happening? I think I'm still breathing.
We used to have an M4 that was not even nearly that fast, but it was a fast effing car too. It was the same type of thing. We used to say the same thing. When we first got it, we had gotten out of a fast car, and this was just like a really fast car. And everything did change. It was like your what you think is fast change. Everything changes. It's so bizarre.
And perceptually, like I think it would probably change over time, right? And you talk about like neural habits or whatever. But
That's
I think
what I mean,
my brain
perception.
was like,
you're not used to. You get squished at first, but eventually you get used to all that. It's too much though. I don't understand the point of it. What are you going to do?
It was fantastic. That was so exhilarating. So becoming more and of course having our own Porsche. And I've started a blog called OurPorschePassion.com.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Where I've shared a little bit about our inspiration from our last trip. We came home and thought, like, let's start a manifesting project. Like, let's just see what we can dream up in this realm.
All you have to do is think of it.
Think of it, right?
All you have to do is think of it.
And so I'm writing about that, our
Rest is easy.
experience on that journey, and also the stories of the people we meet along the way, because they're remarkable. You know, people who've taken this path, and I talk about things like vision, passion, purpose, performance, some of those that's caught up in Porsche, what draws people to it, and there's stories coming into it, like you guys, right? There's some really interesting stories out there that I think are interesting to share and interesting to be a part of. So our Porsche Passion.
Nice.
People will check it out. It's fun. It's an outlet.
I will. I'll look at it. Thank
Look
you.
that up again. Also, for more information, if you want to contact Angela about perhaps becoming a client, maybe here in the LA region or anywhere else, just send her an email. And the social is right there as well. Very, very easy. Or just send us a message and we'll get you the information.
We'll get connected.
Yeah, one way or the other. You're amazing. I'm so appreciative
So
that you were
glad.
here. I'm so appreciative that we've met both of you and that you're in our lives. You are very, very good people for us to be around. There's something, whatever it is that we want to get, like you're doing the same thing, and it's very, very easy.
Well, we feel very much the same way, and it's a connection of the heart. And I love that, you know, every time we talk, there's one more thing where I'm like, oh, me too.
Every time. What was it today?
Ballet and dance. And in a weird way, I mean, for a long time, my right foot is smaller than my left foot.
It's funny
so
you say
finding
that,
shoes is a little bizarre.
For us, it was today with Darren's scoliosis. We've all got the subtle scoliosis that creeps up still. I believe that's all part of this. She's rewiring the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm still in the process of it, but I'm almost solved fixing mine. But you have to mentally correct it.
I want to hear more about that.
If your S was this, you have to get it to do the other thing, and you're going against your entire everything, and I mean your spinal cord and everything to get there. Yes. But it's everything you were talking about before, about the visualizations and the flow and everything, and it's all possible.
It's all possible.
Yeah. It's really cool. I'm taller again. Hey-o.
Hey-o.
Angela, we love you. Darren, we love you.
Love
Safe
you.
travels back to Canada, because we're not going to see you again before, right?
No, we head back to Toronto on
Sunday.
Monday. We may. We'll see what magic comes about. Who knows?
Awesome.
Okay. Maybe this
if
weekend.
we do,
Well, that would
great.
be nice.
And if not, it'll be at the next time, which is
Cool.
hopefully sooner rather than later.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. You guys are amazing. Let's see. Mrs. Ryan.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we've got Breakfast Club.
Yes.
Newcomb's Ranch. Not new.
No.
Posted it this morning, and sure enough, the first couple of people, what time are you meeting?
We don't
Newcomb's opens at 9 a.m. Everyone gets there. They take their own pace. Come whenever you want. We get there around 9-ish, and stay for a couple hours, depending on the company, depending on the laughs, depending on how we're feeling, all the things. But it's always a good group, and it's always good up at Newcomb's. It's always a good drive. You're getting nature, fresh air, meditation, all the above. So come on up. Be nice to see you.
Yeah.
Not you guys though. You're not invited.
Yeah. Whatever.
You have engagements elsewhere.
We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Love you, Mrs. Ryan. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will
Bye,
see you
guys.
next week. Oh wait, who's here next week? I have that. Pete P-E-E-T. Pete Guercio.
That's what I think.
Guercio.
How I said it.
He's a very cool guy. We saw his whole thing, but I don't know how to say his name. Seems to be a theme of the week. Love everybody. Have a great weekend.